Today I want to talk briefly about Quinn Ewers, who has decided to reopen his recruitment and decommit from the University of Texas. And all that's coming up after the bumper. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about Quinn Ewers, who has decided to reopen his recruitment after decommitting from the University of Texas. When we'll get into where his next landing spot may or may not be here in a second. But first, let's acknowledge the surroundings here, and all of y'all send love to Laurel because it's date night and we've been having conversations about philosophy and religion because, you know, we only do heavy stuff. Race, because race is always at the center of most discussions that I'm having because I always want to have conversations about race. I'm also writing a book about it. So, I mean, that's where my headspace is. When it's not about recruiting and what the hell is going on in college football. Now, we kind of knew that there was going to be some moving and shaking as it denotes one Quinn Ewers. But for those of you that do not know, Quinn Ewers is the #1 quarterback in the 2022 class because, yeah, that matters. He's coming out of South Lake Carroll, and he had decided to commit to Texas, where many people thought that he would be going, especially as, well, Mike Yurcich is the offensive coordinator. Now, what's curious about this is Yurcich wanted Ewers, and in that way, in wanting Ewers, kind of was willing to let Jalen Milroe go. Jalen Milroe eventually decommits after the Ewers commitment and chooses to commit to the University of Alabama. So now the University of Texas doesn't have not one, but two quarterbacks for the next two cycles, losing one to Alabama and the next one we think perhaps to Ohio State if we believe the crystal balls. Now, crystal balls have been, known to have been wrong from time to time. But in talking about what we have in store for like Ohio State next couple of years, you could see easily how a Quinn Ewers would think that an Ohio State is a better option than a Texas. To say anywhere is probably a better option than Texas right now for a #1 player at any position, let alone quarterback. The Longhorns have their own problems. First, they're not actually a great football team in a year in which they should be an outstanding football team. Looking at the 247 Sports Composite and the talent ranking, they have the 5th best roster on talent alone in college football. The other 4 have played in national championships in the last 5 years and, are Ohio State, or Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, and of course, we could talk a little bit about LSU being in there, but as LSU continues to rebuild and reload, I expect them to be right there alongside in Ohio State. And now you know that with CJ Stroud and Jack Miller, both in that 2020 class coming in, being followed by a Kyle McCord, perhaps there's going to be an opportunity for Quinn Ewers to compete for that job in 2023. I don't know that we're going to see CJ Stroud and Jack Miller both finish their careers at Ohio State, and knowing that Jack Miller got run in the season opener would lead us to believe that he's ahead of CJ Stroud on the depth chart at Ohio State. So the portal could be on and popping at some point in the future. Now, for Ewers, I think this is a solid move. One, Ohio State goes back into Texas if they are able to land a commitment like Ewers and do what they did last year, which is land a Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was one of the top wide receivers in the 2020 class coming out of Rockwall. They've also gone in there in recent years and got Garrett Wilson, who is the best wide receiver for Ohio State, I believe. I know that some folks still think that's Chris Olave, but knowing what Garrett Wilson can do in the return game and what he's able to do in the slot, I'm going to go with the 5-star out of Austin. You can also look at Jeff Okudah, who came out of Texas. What I'm saying here is it makes a lot of sense. And I can understand why the University of Texas doesn't look appealing even for Texas natives right now, because Texas ain't been good for 10 years. And by good, I mean played for a conference championship and won a conference championship, let alone make it back to a national championship game. This also could be the end of the line for one Tom Herman, who is in year 4 of a season in which he's supposed to be way better than what he is, which is to say, not only are you supposed to be undefeated, you should have beaten Oklahoma. And losing to Oklahoma is never a good thing for a University of Texas head football coach. And yet, if he was able to win the Big 12 championship this year in a year where they beat Oklahoma, you could have seen him probably get an extension of rates because college football is wonky and just offsides like that. Now, he has to hope for some luck to fall his way just to make the Big 12 championship game. And with Oklahoma already having a win over Texas and then both, having 2 losses, we understand who's got the tiebreaker there. Now, for Ewers, I think that he's in the catbird seat. I don't even think that you should be looking at a commitment soon, though he alluded to doing so in his note, because he's going to stay a top quarterback recruit and probably a top overall recruit in the 2022 cycle, because anybody that's seen him play at South Lake Carroll will tell you he's got all the tools. Oklahoma, I think, is on the table here, but not in the way that you might think, because Caleb Williams moved to Norman here recently to solidify his position in that I'm going to Oklahoma and I expect to be in this thing with Oklahoma at the end of it. And knowing that Quinn Ewers committed and that he could run off a 2021 recruit, maybe that's not what you want if you're an Oklahoma fan. Though I think that Lincoln Riley has as good a chance as anybody else not named Ohio State to win a Quinn Ewers. I also could see how, you put Lincoln Riley at number 2 in this particular situation, as Ewers has taken trips to Oklahoma. And I think also until we can get the officials back on the docket and get out of this dead period, it's anybody's race. Again, I don't think that Ewers should be making an announcement soon, but, maybe you get the full court press from folks that think that you ought to make this announcement soon, that, would like to know that their boat is getting fuller. You also know what kind of wide receivers you're going to have at your disposal, let alone running backs at Ohio State University. And with Ryan Day basically reaching to Lincoln Riley's level of, excellence when we talk about offensive coordinators and play callers, you could see how that becomes a more appealing place, as Ohio State has won a national championship in the last 20 years, let alone, just 2014. Add in there, Ohio State looks like they're not just going to be good this year, but next year and the year after. If I'm having to pick here, I could say that Ohio State can beat Oklahoma in 2021, 2022. I just don't believe it right now, because I think Oklahoma is going to be loaded for bear in 21 and 22. Either way, this works out for Quinn Ewers, as he gets to watch how the rest of us react, and he gets to watch how these teams finish. Add in there, Oklahoma saw EJ Ndoma-Ogar go into the transfer portal earlier this week, and Caleb Johnson ends up decommitting from the 2021 class at defensive back. And you don't have any good news on the front of the suspended players, that is Ramondre Stevenson, Ronnie Perkins, and Trajan Bridges. And you can see how this thing is already seemingly just getting out of hand for Oklahoma. All right, that is it for me. Thank you for watching this very special episode on the RJ Young Show. Doses.